Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. Well, super excited to. Well, first, I should say that we're on Zoom and I am in Studio A outside for the first outside podcast of the season. Mike's at Studio MB. We are now dubbing it. And Ryan, where are you?
I am in Montreal at the Bell Center, so I am not outside, but I believe our temperature is very similar.
So at the Bell Center, that is HQ then for the President's Cup, or it's
It
just your
isn't.
HQ?
It is until about June when we move to the course full time, but yeah, that is HQ right now, and I believe Andrea Bocelli is about to start shortly. So if there's any background noise, it's not
Oh,
not not a bad background noise.
Geez, yeah, we should just put the mic out there and just record that, and that'll be the pod. Away we go.
live stream.
There you go. Cheaper than
Uh,
Ticketmaster.
I was gonna say there'll be some copyright issues, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, we'll go along with it. But no copyright issues with this gentleman, and that is Bryce Matlashewski, who is an investment advisor with Endeavour Wealth Management, part of IA Private Wealth, and a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. You can contact Bryce 204-515-3446. He's also a member at St. Charles. Golf courses are opening up. The Munis are open. Southwood is going to be opening this weekend, so right away, and then I'm sure all the others will follow suit as it's been, pretty darn nice here the past couple of weeks. Even
Mhm.
got a little bit of rain today. I was going to go smack him around the range at Southwood, but it rained. So I just came home and watched a
Right.
bit of the Masters and got prepared for this. And speaking of Southwood, Mike has his Centerport, Canada, Rail Park, Manitoba Open sweater on. It's a nice sweater, mouthful
Mhm.
of a tournament. We'll just call
Beautiful.
it the Manitoba Open, I think, for the rest of the show.
Can't wait to
Yeah.
dive into that with your new GM. There's lots of stories we can dive into on that
Ooh.
front, on or off the record. But
Ooh.
Give us all
Juice,
the juicy details.
juicy. Yeah.
Any Masters predictions, Mike?
Me?
Even though this show will be coming out after the Masters
Oh, well,
concludes.
I mean, continuing on from last week, I think Fitzpatrick was my guy. I don't know where he ended up at the end of today. I think he was under par, but
He was
um,
struggled a bit coming in, but he was under par.
good I think Bryson was off of our I don't know if his name was mentioned,
No, I don't think it was.
Um, but yeah, some exciting things going on today. Unfortunately, got the late start, so some of the guys will have to start again tomorrow, which would be Friday, and this will release Monday, and will sound like what are those guys talking about? But yeah, some very exciting things.
Late Sunday night it'll be out, but I know we only have a few listeners on late Sunday night. Shout out to AI. Maybe he is, maybe he's not.
We
I don't
have
know. Sleeping.
listeners.
We do. We have a few listeners, yeah. But also with that, I know we forgot to mention we're talking about the Canadians in the field, and we forgot to mention Adam Hadwin.
Yeah.
So sorry to all our fact checkers out there. We
got a
didn't
great
mention
pairing.
Adam Hadwin. Yeah. So
Who was he playing with today?
I was playing with Freddie and one of the amateurs. I'm trying to think now.
enough said.
Anyway, it was Freddie and one of the amateurs. It was like solid, laid back pairing.
Nice.
Yeah. That. I mean, hey, and he was doing all right. I don't know what he finished up at. But anyways, it's not a live master show. We're gonna get into some golf, and we're on with Ryan Hart here, and coming from Montreal, but from Winnipeg. I'm assuming born and raised.
Born Vancouver, moved there when I was one. So yeah, pretty close.
Born and raised, or just raised. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
go with that. But how did you end up getting into the game of golf?
Well, I guess if you go back to the origins, it would be my grandfather took me out. He was a longtime member at St. Boniface, CN Rail, employee for many years, and a bunch of those guys were over there and used to live on Braemar, so it was a short walk over. And he had this. It was I remember it like it was yesterday on Des Mirins. A buddy of his had like a triple car garage, but it was sort of one car, a couple golf carts, and they get in the golf carts, and then we drive across, literally across the street to
Wow.
St. B and go play. And I remember the Rolly Marions for those Winnipeggers listening, the longtime beer rep in Winnipeg, echoing his voice would echo through the clubhouse. And as a kid doing that, and I think it was okay. Kind of loved more spending time with my grandfather than anything, and then kind of probably paused that out until I was about 16, 17, and then started it up again, and ended up working at Manaki Lodge for one summer and worked the golf shop, bartended, whatever. And a good friend of mine, Mike Buckley, who used to be the food and beverage manager out at Rossmere, would work at Manaki Lodge, and kind of learned the game from him, really. So it was sort of two phases, but yeah, it was St. B is where it all started.
Wow. Did you play in any junior tournaments at all, competitively, provincially, or was kind of just being out there with grandpa and away you go?
Honestly, I always like to say that I was never good enough to be at that level. So the good players play inside the ropes. I now work outside the ropes for a reason.
So the coaches coach, managers manage.
Exactly. We'll go with that.
That's what I got growing up with hockey was coaches coach, managers manage.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime the manager wanted to come in the room and try and coach, the coach is like, no, get out of here.
Yeah. I stay away from everything that happens inside the ropes other than making sure the players are happy. That's pretty much the long and short of it.
So then when did that transition maybe happen from, was it at Manaki, transitioning from on the course, say inside the ropes to outside the ropes?
I've always loved the game, really. I mean, passionate about it. And I mean, weeks like this, I mean, April, the unofficial start to the golf season being the Masters and so on. I would think, sort of long story short on that, I was in the beer business for about 10 years, and we sponsored a bunch of local events and charity events and so on. I worked with Sleeman for 10 years and got to know a ton of the golf pros in and around town, and then transitioned from that to the marketing business, and led the team at MF1 Marketing for a number of years. And the PGA Tour became a client of ours when they were looking at, I guess, taking over what were the assets of the old Canadian Tour. And I say this all the time. I wouldn't be in golf on the business side if it wasn't for Rob and Nicole McMillan. They were running the Manitoba Open / Players Cup at Pine Ridge, and I remember them calling and say, "Hey, do you want to have lunch?" I said, "Sure." Yeah, and they were thinking about sort of rebranding the event and doing a bunch of things, and then we had lunch at Moxie's on Regent, and Rob, I think, was about to get a job with Titleist, and said, this we've got to take a different direction, and your passion's there. You've been working with us for a bit and working on the branding and so on. And you ever think about running one of these events? And I'm like, wow, no, don't know if I had ever really thought about that, but thought about it for a little bit, and then actually sat down, went back to where it all started, and sat in the lounge at St. Boniface Golf Club with Rob Guthrie, your new general manager, Dave McMillan, and I think there was one other person there. I can't remember off the top of my head, and literally said, "Hey, they want us to run this professional golf tournament. Like, what the heck are we going to do?" And we kind of came up with this sort of, from a charity perspective, from a event perspective, how do we take what the Players Championship was on the PGA Tour with less zeros and do that in Winnipeg? And that was sort of our kind of guiding light, if you will. And we decided to do it, and did it for 7 years, and fast forward many more from that, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a journey in itself there, and just knowing the contacts and people in the business. And we'll talk about Guthrie maybe in a little later on. Do you still play the game? Are you still going out there hacking and slashing and whacking?
Not as much as I'd like to. I believe with travel and whatnot, I played probably about 3 or 4 rounds in Winnipeg last year, and probably another 5 or 6 here in Montreal last year. So I think it's one of those great misnomers, right? You work in the ball or in the golf business, and everybody's like, "Oh, you must play so much golf." if I get 10 rounds in a year, I'm pretty happy. We'll hope to change that post President's Cup, but love it. Absolutely love it. You know, I'll be glued to the TV like everybody this weekend. And but yeah, golf and travel and kids and family. Just not the season right now.
So paint the picture then for us. So you are still a Winnipegger. You still
Absolutely.
live in Winnipeg, but because of the President's Cup, you had to move your family, correct?
Wow. I think if you ask my wife, she would say you live in a suitcase.
Oh.
I think that's how it goes. We we moved to Ponte Vedra. I left Winnipeg at 20 back into 2016, but we were still running the 2017 Players Cup at Pine Ridge. Moved down to Ponte Vedra. I went on my own, then came back, finished it out. Then I left like right from there, went to the Northern Trust at the time in New York, and then went to, funny enough, the 2017 President's Cup. And then from there, we lived in Ponte Vedra for a few years. Was humbled by the opportunity to be the tournament director of the Players Championship for, I guess, 3 plays if you count them all. Last one being COVID, was my final year. Great year to end. And then with COVID, we couldn't hire my replacement fast enough because of everything going on at that time. So I kind of worked 50% on it for the 21 event. And then since then, I've been 100% on President's Cup in Montreal. So I've been coming back and forth to Montreal, I would say roughly every other week since early 21. And then I just moved here full time last week. My family came out here, and then they'll join me in the summer. My son actually goes to McGill, so he's in his third year.
Convenient.
Yeah, so he's my roommate. Been great.
Does he do the dishes?
Actually, he does.
Oh, nice.
Which is great. I try not to encroach too much on his university life, but yeah, it's been awesome. Been here for a while now, and family loves it. And yeah, like I said, we will be honorary Montrealers as a family, probably starting back into June.
That is, so what is the process then for the President's Cup? I'm sure they plan this years and years and years and years out, but saying you've been working on it since 2021 and it's the 2024 President's Cup. When did you start working on the Montreal President's Cup?
We announced it August 10th of 2020. And I would say I started working on it part-time that fall. And I would say full-time April of 21.
Wow. So it's an experience.
It is. It's a journey. I mean, I think if you go back to the history of the President's Cup starting in 1994, I mean, Tim Fincham, the former commissioner's vision at the time was, how do we take the PGA brand, which was seen as a very much a U.S. domestic brand, and grow our brand globally and inspire people around the world. And obviously we know that with the Ryder Cup, it was the U.S. against Europe, but the rest of the world didn't have that opportunity to play team golf. So in 1994, they kicked that door open. And I think that, when you talk to Mike Weir today and so on, I mean, that opportunity sparked a light in all of those countries that were outside of Europe to say, hey, we can play an event at that level, and we can play team golf in a primarily individual sport. We can get that opportunity. And, fast forward to I would say Charlotte in 22, the President's Cup is hands down the PGA Tour's largest global event. So the opportunity to bring it back to Canada is an enormous amount of pride. And I mean, I think 07 set the stage for it when it was here last, with the fandom around it. But coming back and being here now, it's an unbelievable experience.
And I will say we do have the link in our link tree to the President's Cup site, so you can go there and pick up your tickets, because general admission. So I've been following the President's Cup and the email marketing for I don't even know for how long, and I keep on seeing, oh, you can get these tickets, you can get these tickets, and then I saw through Southwood and a few other clubs you had some advance ticket sales. And so now general admission tickets are on sale and you can go and get them. Just go to our link tree.
10 a.m. this morning, they started. This being, I know that, this is going to come out later, but 10 a.m. Thursday of the Masters, we kind of looked at it a couple of years out and said, as a Canadian, the Masters is that kickoff to the golf season. So if we're going to do it, we got to do it when people are starting to think about it, snow's melted and so on. And then, yeah, I think the Winnipegger in me and in our team was sort of like, hey, let's do a pre-sale, but let's make sure that we reach that coast to coast. And yeah, was awesome to see the support from Winnipeg and people buy early. And yeah, I mean, we're 165 days away. So the floodgates are officially open.
And it's in and around Mike's favorite city in Canada, Montreal.
Montreal, beautiful city. I visited there not that long ago. Yeah.
What did you do there, Mike?
Okay, well, we went to we ate a lot of food. We went
Sounds
to
right.
the mountain there.
Not wrong.
We went to the spa on the boat. Lots
Nice.
of walking around, eating poutine, Schwartz Deli, all sorts of stuff. Wagwa.
Bagels.
Wow.
Bagels, yeah, lots of bagels, lots of things. Didn't go golfing. Yeah, that was
When were you
really
here?
good. We'll say 2021 September-ish.
Oh, there you
The
go.
weather was beautiful. So
Well, we'll have to get you out before we shut down the course, and be great to have you guys out. We'll play a little golf.
absolutely. Yes,
Oh.
I was reading up about the Royal Montreal Golf Club. I looked at it on Google Maps. I'm a big Google mapper. I see that it's my pronunciation is terrible. However, we have a podcast, but it is on the Isle of Bizard.
Yes, Il Bizarre. Yep.
Le Bizarre.
Well, Montreal is an island upon itself, and then it is literally on another island.
Wow. Yeah.
How,
So
how
it's
bizarre.
about,
How bizarre.
how bizarre.
Is that a song? I thought it was a song
It is.
from Mario. Yeah. How bizarre.
I was going
How
to say
bizarre.
that
Anyways, I don't
takes
know.
me back to junior high school, somewhere in there.
You can use that song in some of your marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you tell us a little bit about the President's Cup? Because, not all of our listeners, including myself, watch the PGA day to day, week to week, usually tuning in on the majors. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about it and the format and why it's interesting.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is again, like I go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier is, golf is very much an individual sport. And unless you grew your career and came up through the college ranks, you never really would play team golf. And I think, as we know, growing up playing hockey, things like that from where we're from, that team atmosphere, it creates a different environment. So I think in 1994, like I said earlier, when Tim Finchem was trying to grow our brand globally, it was, okay, we've got the US and Europe sort of in this bucket called the Ryder Cup. How do we continue to grow and inspire generations beyond that? And so he came up with a great idea to create this President's Cup. Concept. He partnered and had a great relationship with George Bush Sr., President Bush. And they not only did they create the President's Cup, they also created the first tee at the same time, which is, probably one of the most noted golf charities, really in North America. But it gives people the opportunity to aspire to playing at the highest level as part of something greater than yourself. And I think that in talking to players that have played a few, that want to make the team and so on, is that's the biggest thing is, they talk about it's for pride, but it's not personal pride. It's about, you're putting your country's flag on your chest and you're playing for that, but you're also playing for the pride of your team. They talk about the history of it, a young history compared to the Ryder Cup, but they talk about if you're on the international side, obviously there's been 15 playings or 14 players. This would be the 15th playing. And the international side has, in many ways, been dominated by the U.S. But they talk about, if you look at the history of the Ryder Cup, and there was a stint in time. I mean, the Ryder Cup started, I believe it, don't quote me 100% on this, but I think it was 1929. And there was a 36-year period where the U.S. won.
Mm-hmm.
So that period is longer than the President's Cup's been alive. So, and then the whole Ryder Cup craziness, if you will, around it and fandom around it really changed when the Europeans won on American soil. And then the whole thing changed. And so I think we're at or waiting for that tipping point where you have people from South America, from Canada, from Australia, from Asia that have this opportunity to be part of a team that they otherwise wouldn't have. So when you put all that together, and I guess the greatest example I can give is if you go back to 2007, when the last time I was in Montreal, there was a bit of hospitality on the member driving range, and then the rest was sort of people lining fairways, a couple grandstands, and so on and so forth. Fast forward to 2024, this event has grown to, yes, our largest global event, but we will build out 13 of 18 holes. We're going to build over 600,000 square feet of floor space on that golf course, a small village on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the amphitheater on number one, when 3,000 people are lining the grandstands around just the first tee, not the fairway, but just the first tee. I mean, this event has really, it's been on a growth cycle, I would say, for the last 5 to 7 years, but Charlotte was really a tipping point for it. And, we have the opportunity here to take it to the next level in Canada with the amazing sports fans here.
And how does one qualify for the President's Cup? So you have captains for USA and the world. Is there a point system to qualify as well?
So it's kind of evolved over time, but yes, you've got the U.S. captain for us this year will be Jim Furyk, and the international team will be Mike Weir. And it's about a year's cycle leading up to it. For the U.S. side, it is largely based around FedEx Cup points over a 12-month cycle. And the international side is largely based on official world golf rankings. So the top 6 on both teams will qualify via the rankings or point system. And then both captains, as of this year, both captains will have 6 captains picks to round out their team. So part qualifying, part captains picks, but it's all about who the captains think are, trending in the right direction. Their game fits the golf course. They've been in big moments and so on and so forth. So I think there's a bit of art and science that goes to the pick part, but the top 6 are 100% on points.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Probably maybe even a couple Canadians playing on the team this year.
The way it looks right now, I think we're shaping up well with that. I mean, obviously Mike Weir being the captain, we've got one there, but Nick Taylor's had an unbelievable 12 months. I think Adam Hadwin and Corey Connors are kind of fighting back and forth. I mean, if the Olympics were to happen tomorrow, I think it's Nick and Adam. But a few months ago, it was Nick and Corey. And then you look at, Mackenzie Hughes has had some great events. Taylor Pendrith obviously played the last one, so he's got some experience around that. Adam Svensson has played extremely well. So it's going to come down to who is trending well. And I think Captain Weir said it early that, yes, would he love some Canadians on the team playing in Canada? 100%, but he wants to win. And so the guy's got to be tailored for the course or trending well coming into it.
And I'm guessing, because I mean, you watch it on television, but maybe you can tell us about the experience on the course. You mentioned the small village being built on the golf course, but what is that fan experience like for going to the President's Cup?
I think it's definitely different than going to a week in, week out, 144 player event. I mean, you've got 24 golfers. So Thursday and Friday, a little different from the Ryder Cup. where they're 3 days. We go to 4. We do our opening ceremonies on the Thursday around lunch, and then you've got about 5 matches in the afternoon. Friday, you've got, again, 5 matches in the afternoon, and you get a full day, morning and afternoon matches on Saturday, and then full day of singles on Sunday. But it is, I think what creates part of that atmosphere is you only have that small amount of golfers on the golf course. So when we're looking at capacity at Royal Montreal, and every golf course is different because they're all laid out differently. Proximity, obviously, this one's on an island. So we try to think about what number gives us the chance for the most optimal fan experience. And for Royal Montreal, we think that's somewhere between 30 to 33,000 people a day. Those 30 to 33,000 people are going to be clumped, if you will, following these 4 or 5 groups. So we've really divided the course into 4 quadrants, created 4 fan areas where big screens, Adirondack chairs, picnic benches, great sampling of the food culture here in Montreal, local chefs, those sort of things, to try to have people say, okay, if I want to see golf, I can leapfrog, I can get ahead, I can get that front row seat, up against the ropes, or if I bought hospitality, I'm in a suite somewhere, whatever. If not, I've got a great opportunity to watch golf in front of me for a few holes, or actually go to one of these fan areas, grab an amazing Montreal smoked meat sandwich, or a frosty cold refreshment, and sit down, and there's a big screen where you can do that for a little bit, and then you can get back out to watching the golf right in front of you. But I think golf has evolved, generally speaking. I think sports overall has. The diehard golf fan is yes, it's that core fan, but then you have that event seeker, that person who wants to go to big community events, wants to be seen. I just can't miss that because it's a big event going on. And I think you're seeing that across, whether it's sports or music festivals and those sorts of things. People are just gravitating to that. And I think, we're in the nice to do versus need to do business. And we've just got to keep working on that experience from the word go, from when people buy their ticket to when they leave their hotel or home and go to the course, and when they get on property. It is definitely more than golf.
Well, I think both Mike and I know that Montreal is a great host city for anything. And the hospitality there is fantastic. Mike going through the laundry list of stuff that he did, and especially the food experience there. You didn't bring up refreshments. And Mike, what are you drinking tonight? Are you drinking a double water on the rocks?
I got a pink grapefruit Perrier.
You do?
Solid.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say a Pink Whitney for a second, but whoa.
No, I mean, if you threw a little bit of Pink Whitney in, I bet it would be great. But I mean, if I attended the President's Cup, or when I do, I'd like to get in one of those private presidential suites I read about.
There's a lot to take in one of those. You and 74 of your friends.
Yeah.
Dignitaries from around the globe, Mike.
Well, once the pod gets a few more sponsorships and we invest our money well with Bryce, I'm sure we can afford one of those private presidential suites.
Or we can get Bryce to buy one, and we can all
That's right.
come on out, right?
Perfect. Absolutely.
Sign them up. Sold.
I wanted to ask, is there an honorary chairman or chairwoman that has been identified yet, or is that comes out later?
So from the word go in 1994, the honorary chair of the event is whoever is the sitting head of state for the host country. So as it sits right now, that would be Prime Minister Trudeau. And we've had a long history of support from the White House. So if I look back at 2017 was the first President's Cup I worked. 2013 was the first one I went to with your new GM, Rob Guthrie. But 2017 was the first one I worked. And that year we had Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and George Bush Jr. on the first tee.
Wow.
And the last one in Charlotte, we had President Bush and President Clinton. And I think this upcoming year, we definitely expect at least one or two, plus hopefully our Prime Minister. it's really been one of those sort of traditions that continues.
That's super cool. That's
And Mike and JR from 18 Over Par.
Exactly.
We'll weasel our way into anywhere.
Holding down the pod house.
That's right. Hey, we'd be happy to do it. We've been told, so winding back the clock and talking a little bit about the Players Cup and I guess even the Manitoba Open, we have been invited to the party hole at Southwood, which is hole number 17. On the regular layout is hole number 8, but it's tournament number 17, a nice little par 3 over the water with some trouble, but they got a DJ out there. They got the
Jeff Sparrow and the boys sponsoring
Jeff
it.
Sparrow, Castle Mortgage Group, no free ads. They are out there as well, and they're like, you know what? Just come set up shop here and do your show. And Mike and I are always like, sure. I mean, we do have day jobs, so it is a little bit tough to day drink for those days. But you know what? It's something that we have strongly thought about and considered. Not the day drinking, we do that, but doing the pod from the 17th hole, which would be a live pod from the 17th hole in the hospitality tent.
I mean, no laying up, the foreplay guys, Barstool. I mean, they all started somewhere, right?
That's right.
So why not? We'd love to have you guys out. I mean, there's definitely we've talked to Hustler about coming out. We've got Radio Row, and then we're sort of looking at how do we incorporate so many of these podcasts and so on. But something we can definitely circle back on. But I think in today's day and age in media, that's what people want content. They want to hear not necessarily what's going on birdies and bogeys. It's what's going on around that. So I mean, definitely something we should stay in touch on, and would love to have you guys out.
Oh well, yeah, thank you very much. We'd be happy to be out there. I have been to Montreal a few times. Love the city. Got some connections there, but we won't get into those connections right now. But we'll go back to the Players Cup as well and getting the start there. So that was when, I forget what the brand was. Was it the Mackenzie Tour at that time?
I think when we first got involved, it was the Canadian Tour, and then actually when I first got involved, it was Canadian Tour because I was still with Sleeman Breweries at the time, and then when I would say officially took over running it, I think it was the first year of the Mackenzie Tour, PGA Tour Canada. Yeah.
So what goes into a tournament of that scale? Well, maybe you've touched a little bit on the President's Cup scale, but what goes into the scale of, say, that tournament? The Players Cup when you were originally doing it, because that seems like it's a grassroots thing.
It isn't. It isn't. And I've said this many a time in talking to people, like, it is literally the same job. The zeros are just different. The zeros in volunteers, the zeros in fans, the zeros in sponsorship, the zeros in players, whatever you have. Like, I think when they talk about now PGA Tour America as being the pathway to the PGA Tour, definitely I'm a big believer that it can be the pathway outside the ropes as well, because you have to have engagement in the community. You have to figure out what is that connection. Is it the charitable connection? Is it the connection of the PGA Tour? What have you? We all need X amount of volunteers. We all have a budget that we've got to hit. And from a player perspective, it's so funny. I remember Jeff Monday, who's now retired from the PGA Tour. He helped start the Champions Tour, helped start the Nike Tour at the time, now Korn Ferry Tour. And his last he did a number of other things, but his last job was really getting Mackenzie Tour, PGA Tour Canada off the ground. We still stay in touch. Every time I'm down in Florida, we'll grab a pint and catch up. But he always said, when you look at what we're trying to do for the players on that tour, whether it's haircuts at the golf course, is there a discount on your car rentals or a good deal on hotel rooms, and what is the food like, player amenities, and so on and so forth, and what is the volunteer experience like? And I mean, I consider myself very blessed to have had the opportunity to work with Jeff in that transition in that time, because he'd seen it on all the tours above and said, like, if you can think about it through that lens at this level, it's transferable no matter where you go. And, I look at guys like CT Pan that won when I was there, Graham Hickok, who won when I was there. Robbie Shelton didn't win, but definitely was there. These guys, Joel Damon spent the number. We used to have a cup party on Friday nights at the King's Head, and
Love it.
Joel Damon and Sam Ryder used to come when they were playing up there. They remember the things that you do for them, and I'll never forget my first week working for the PGA Tour. I was at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Walked onto the driving range. Didn't really 100% know what the heck I was doing, and was just kind of walking down the range. And I remember this, "Hey, Ryan," and I kind of looked over, and it was a female's voice, and it was CT Pan's wife, Michelle. And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, left Winnipeg, down with the PGA Tour." She's like, "That's amazing." And fast forward to this year's Players, I walked with her for two holes at the Players Championship, and just catching up. And if you think about it, I don't think that, and I didn't believe it then, and I still truly don't believe it, that people that go to a PGA Tour Americas event like the Manitoba Open, they don't truly appreciate how close these guys are. Like CT Pan won in 2015, I believe, in Winnipeg. 2015 or 2016 in Winnipeg. And he played the 2019 President's Cup. So if you think about that progression, he left Winnipeg, got through the Corn Ferry, then got onto the PGA Tour and played well enough to qualify for a President's Cup team in 2019 in Australia in a very short window. Go to Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor, I will never forget this. I think he finished, I'm going to say 12th the last year he played in Winnipeg. And 13 months later, he won the Sanderson Farms Championship on the PGA Tour. 13 months after leaving playing in Winnipeg. So that is something that I am still to this day extremely passionate about, is the quality of golf that comes through the Manitoba Open and comes through that tour is unbelievable. And I think it's underrated. And they remember it. They remember Earls on Main. They remember, people that they met along the way, and they still talk about it. So yeah, I love that event.
I think we touched on it during our Masters gambling guide about coming down to, Southwood and just checking it out. And it's one of the longer courses in the province.
Yep.
And these guys are playing it from the tips, and they can torch that course. Like, that course is not easy.
Yep.
But you got guys going out there shooting 6 under, 7 under, 8 under, 9 under on a day. And from the black tees, from the back, from the championship tees. And it really is an amazing experience. And I can't explain it enough about how great that atmosphere is. So I can't even imagine what a President's Cup atmosphere would be like when you get some of the best players around the globe coming and playing. And as you said, 30 to 33,000 people all bundled around, maybe, 4 or 5 groups are in these fan experience areas. It's got to be one of the best parties.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think you have your core base that for sure is that golf fan. But I was at the Players a few weeks ago, and having been the tournament director there and understanding the planning that goes behind it, and this year was a bit different because I had literally zero to do with it. And we were hosting people from Montreal there. They said that the biggest surprise that they had, and there was a similar mention when we were in Charlotte. They're like, no one really is watching the golf. Like, they are, but they aren't, right? And I'll never forget, and I say it to every one of our team members. Jeff Monday said it was far smarter than I, and I asked him one day, and I said, "What does success look like for us?" And he paused and he said, "If we can walk around on Sunday and ask 25 people who's leading the golf tournament and they have no idea, that's success." We've done our job. You know, we've created an event that the community wants to be a part of. Obviously, giving back is a key part of what we do, but a community event that people want to be a part of. If you can get to that point, then you can probably check that box.
And I'm guessing there's quite a few people that do come from other parts of the globe that zero in on this opportunity to come. And I'm sure, like I said, the atmosphere must be great when you're dealing with people from all over the world.
Oh, for sure. And I think it gets to that pride and patriotism, right? Like, depending on the mix of the team. I mean, I think if you were on X or Instagram or whatnot today, you know, there's a big Canadian flag behind the President's Cup and some guys dressed up in, you know, red and white. But you see that more at a President's Cup, that pride, that passion for country, than you do on a week in and week out basis. And I think that is probably the single biggest differentiator in what we do with the President's Cup. Is it's more than golf. It's about pride of country and the team aspect of it. I go back to, and I literally said this earlier this week, and I'll remember it forever. In 2010, when the Olympics were in Vancouver, and Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister at the time, literally stood up in the House of Commons and gave Canadians permission to cheer. I mean, we're known as this polite country, you know, and arguably overly polite, whatever. And he said it in the House of Commons. And Mike Weir and I talked about that about a year ago. And he goes, I want to bring the Bell Center on a Saturday night, Montreal, Toronto, that atmosphere to the first tee of the President's Cup. And he said, if we can do that, it's going to be epic. So we're doing our best with that. And, you know, the Montreal Canadiens have been an unbelievable partner with us. And I think that those that can make it to the President's Cup this fall, it's a hockey environment on a golf course, and let's go.
Yeah, I was going to say, we probably have a roster of guys and gals that could certainly make it feel like that.
Bring them on.
You know who you are.
I wonder, will the Habs be playing? They'll probably have an exhibition game around then. They would be, you know, with that many people in town for an event like that, you know, I think they would plan an exhibition game during the same time.
So we've had a great, like I said earlier, great partnership with Group CH and the Montreal Canadiens, and we've been working with them and the league. And there will be an exhibition game on the Wednesday night, and there will be an original six matchup on the Saturday night at the Bell Center. So
cool.
We'll go with that.
Whoa.
Yeah, my idea.
Hey, we're Mike. We're giving that to you, man. We're giving that to you.
Put it on the board. Way to go,
Perfect.
Mike. Yeah,
I'll go to the box office for my tickets. They're under my name.
There'll be a Mike Smith in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I wanted to ask again about course changes, and I saw there was and then also the clubhouse, because I'm sure you guys, I saw through my Google view, you can get right into the Royal Montreal through Google.
Yeah.
But it looks like they were doing some renos there, and then I wonder what kind of course changes they're doing in preparation for this event.
They've been a great partner from the word go. Obviously, not having held the President's Cup since 2007, and then I think the last Canadian Open was 2016. So we walked through the course top to bottom, and we have redone every bunker on the blue course. We have tweaked 8 tee boxes. We have narrowed the fairways to 28 to 30 yards in the landing area. Average carry distance on the PGA Tour is 306, so kind of in that sort of drop area. So I think that definitely when the members play it, let's say in August, I don't think it'll be the golf course that they're used to. Right. But they when the event's said and done, they will have a championship golf course that is really one of the top in Canada, if it already wasn't. So it's been unbelievable that way. They did take advantage of COVID, and they renovated the main floor of the clubhouse. And it is truly I think they did an amazing job of keeping the history of 150-year-old golf club, but bringing it a little bit more to the amenities of what people expect today. So that is the clubhouse we've turned into our what we call a trophy club, due to the amount of trophies that are in there from the 150-year history. But that will be our highest expression of hospitality on the golf course. So it will be those who buy the trophy club package get valet service to the front door of the golf club. You've got sort of full run of the clubhouse. You've got a great patio overlooking the back, the ninth green, and then there's also a viewing deck on 10T 11 green as well with that. So they've been absolutely amazing to work with. Every time you go to a property, it's a different landscape. It's a different picture that you're trying to paint, and they've just been so great to work with, and we couldn't be more grateful about that.
And I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, but I want to give a shout out to Ross Johnstone, because I remember he originally, way back when we started this podcast, he's like, you got to get Ryan Hart on. So through a friend of a friend,
wow,
it was actually in Montreal at the airport. We were drinking with one of his buddies, and we started talking about the pod a little bit. And Roscoe was like, hey, this guy's got a pod, and you know Ryan Hart, and yada yada yada. Next thing you know, 4 seasons later, here we are.
That's awesome.
We finally made it. So it is funny how it kind of comes full circle. And you mentioned all these players that you've been around in the past. Selfishly, have you tried to pick any tips or ask them for any golf lessons at all? any ones that you can share and pass along to us to maybe make our games better?
Oh man. I remember playing. There's a muni golf course in Jacksonville called Jack's Beach Golf Club, and I got invited to play with Sam Ryder, Doc Redman. Can't remember the other one, like guys that played in Canada when I was down there. And we're in shorts. A couple of guys are in flip-flops, bucket of beer in the back of the cart. And I remember just being so nervous. And I remember Sam looking at me going, he goes, what are you worried about? And I go, what? And he goes, this isn't your day job. I'm like, yeah, good point. And then it was the second time, honestly, I've heard that, because one year at the Manitoba Open was at Pine Ridge, Will Wilcox, who's now caddying for Sanjay M, had a hole-in-one on 17 at Sawgrass during the Players, so on and so forth. His first year out of Alabama, he rolled in. I think he rolled in like 2 hours before the Pro-Am, and we had someone no-show. And so I just jumped into the group, and I'm like, okay, didn't know who this kid was and didn't even know who I was playing with, and that I'll sub out at some point when they show up, and they never did. And we ended up getting rained out after 15. But he was 7 under after 15, never seeing the golf course, and had just turned pro. And he too said, I think it was probably it's right after the turn. And he was like, why are you so nervous? And he was, maybe 21 at the time, maybe. And I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm playing with you. And he's like, you don't do this for a living, man. Just enjoy it. And honestly, those 2 moments really, I wouldn't say it was a swing tip. It wasn't a putting tip. It wasn't anything. It was, I can go out and walk. And, last summer I had the good opportunity to play at St. Charles a few times, and bright and early at 7 in the morning, and just enjoying what's around you. I think that is what I've seen from all of them. Anyone that I've had an opportunity to play with, is you would be shocked at how many of them can tell you, what a course smells like. Like, and if you think about that, you've got to be really in the moment for someone to say, this is what it smells like. And I think that was probably the greatest tip is just be in the moment and enjoy it. It's not your day job.
Sage advice. I think Mike and I have been trying to work on that. We do have the Derek Ingram's Golf Sports Psychology book, the latest edition. of that. I'm sure you've probably had a few run-ins with DI.
Saw him at the Players. Yep.
Yeah. We've been trying to get him on the pod since the
People, what does he always
initial
say?
one, but we'll get him
People
on here soon
don't,
enough.
what does he always say? People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Another great line, and that's totally a DI line, and I love it.
Well, now I guess back to Winnipeg, and touching on maybe Guthrie and some of those folks
Mhm.
that you've dealt with. It seems like you still must have a pretty good relationship with these folks, even touching on the point, giving out some early access to take us to the President's Cup. So how have those relationships been built, and what are those relationships like now?
Oh, Rob, if I look at it, Rob Guthrie, easily one of my best friends. When he left the Winter Club and was going to Southwood, I had the good fortune of being in town, and we had a little night at Confusion Corner, and Todd Teplitsky, Topper from Pine Ridge, was there, and Jason Ludke, Dave McMillan, Derek Kopecky, the super from Pine Ridge, and a few others. It's a tight. I think golf's a tight knit community. Gutty and I have known each other back to my beer days. I think we originally met. I think he was the head pro at Kenora when we originally met, and just kind of friendship grew from there. And he had gotten involved with the Manitoba Open when Mitch Zilnowski was running it, and he was sort of the kind of the number two, but sort of the operational mind, the guy who knew golf and through the pros' eyes what he thought they would like, and so on and so forth. So when we had the opportunity to take over the event and do it, I mean, he was easily, if not the first, second phone call. And we joke now and then about the RH and Gutty tours of, we would have PGA Tour Canada meetings at the time down at the Players Championship every year. And we're like, hey, how do we figure this out? How do we take some learning from here and bring it back on a smaller scale to Winnipeg? So we would have meetings Monday to Wednesday. And then Gutty and I signed up to volunteer for the Players Thursday and Friday. And I mean, there's no better way to learn the inner workings of an event than volunteering. There's still a guy, Mike Maycott, was our hole captain. We volunteered on 15. We did the tee box, the crosswalk, we did behind the green, whatever the case may be. But Mike Maycott was our hole captain. And when I ended up being tournament director for the Players Championship, and he still, I saw him a few weeks ago, and he still loves to say, he goes, I think that you might be the only person that's ever volunteered for the event that's ended up running it. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the event's been around for 50 years. I have no idea, but you get to know those people at the volunteer level, and that is, I honestly believe, where a lot of the great learning comes from. And I think Gutty and I shared that on so many events. I mean, our first event together, just going to, was our first event. Yeah, the 2013 President's Cup. And funny now, obviously fast forwarding this many years and now having the opportunity that I have, but Gutty and I have been on that journey for a long time. And, I'll still pick his brains. He'll still throw me a barb or two about, like, why didn't you do this, or whatever the case may be. And I love that. And I love the honesty of the community. Robbie Mack's a great friend. We have a text chain with the Spears brothers and, Matty Johnson, and, super connected to the community still. The eyes on that one, Kenny Weeb, just a great group. And there's elements of all of them that I get to live and breathe each and every day in what I do. And definitely wouldn't have the opportunities that I do today if it wasn't for each and every one of them.
Feel free to just throw us in one of those group chats. We'll just sit in the background. We won't say anything.
Flies on the wall for sure.
Exactly.
It might be a waiting list. I think Adam Spears might be the gatekeeper of that one, but
we'll talk to him. Yeah.
Well, Adam
Golf
Adam
geeks.
likes us.
Yeah.
We had Adam on, and
Yeah. And Dr. Robert Spears on as well.
we
The
did.
good doctor. His birthday was just the other day.
Oh, happy birthday, Rob!
Cards in the mail. I had one more for you,
Mhm.
and it's going on the title that you have. So it's executive director, correct?
Yes.
So what exactly does that entail? Are you at the top of the pyramid here, or how does that work? What are your responsibilities?
I'm a big fan of a horizontal pyramid.
All right.
We've got a great team. I think I get checked out in front of the media, and have to definitely work with a small group of people on setting the vision of what we're going to do, and manage the budget and all those sorts of things. But I think it's building the team to do it. And I think having the opportunity to have worked at the Players Championship, to have worked the 2017 President's Cup, not in this capacity, you get a great opportunity to meet so many great people in our organization at the PGA Tour. So when this opportunity came up, it was, I think the biggest job is building the right team for the job. And I think we have an unbelievable team of people focused on delivering the best President's Cup in history. We came to a market. Obviously, there are some language barriers here, and I only say that not barriers from a Canadian perspective, but barriers from when you're bringing a U.S. company to Quebec. I think my passport had its privilege to get me this, but we have worked closely with Group CH and their sponsorship division at the time called Ethics. So hired our sales team locally, and we've learned they've been selling in this market 36 years. So I think that's probably the coolest thing I get to do is get to put this group together, share a vision. And for now, it's been almost 3 years. We've got 165 days left, and bring something to life together. And that is truly what it's about for me.
Awesome. Well, get your tickets. Like I said, we got the link in our link tree. Just go to our other Facebook, Instagram. Mike hasn't updated X in a couple of years. Since it was Twitter, he's a big grassroots Twitter guy. But yeah, just go to our bio. Link is right there. Goes to our link tree. You'll see Bryce Matlashewski's face on there, and then you will also see a link to the President's Cup. So go get your tickets.
Thanks.
I would love to come. I got Mike and I were texting about this before we came on the show, and I got my WestJet credits that I got to use up.
Oh.
So, hey.
Let's get you some media credentials. Let's figure it out.
Right.
Absolutely. They got direct flights, or WestJet.
Yeah, they just announced they got direct flights.
Direct flights.
Winnipeg to Montreal.
I wish they had those 2 years ago. But.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I feel that. Hopping either through Ottawa or through Toronto, that was nuts.
On the logistics topic, quickly, you talked about having 30,000 people come to the course, every day, and you guys must be involved in that, in planning that. Do you guys must have transportation coming in from downtown? Can I get to the tournament by boat?
There is a good friend of ours who works in ticketing with Group CH, and she always says we need to get sponsored kayaks. And it's a standing joke, because if you ever see the current in that water, there's no way in God's green earth we'd ever do it. But when you're moving from one island,
we know people who've gone all the way from the Red River or the Assiniboine through the Forks all the way up into whatever Lake Winnipeg or whatever it is, up to Gimli. Yeah, we've had people do that trek.
I did that twice.
Did you actually?
Really?
You were one of those. Oh,
No way.
There we go.
It's a 4-day trip.
So maybe you're not too far off. We can handle it.
We got another hour here. I can talk about that.
Maybe the 18 over par is going to sponsor the kayaks
Awesome.
for the President's Cup.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, Montreal obviously is on an island of itself, and then Ile Bizarre is another island. So our biggest, I would say, and I get asked the question all the time, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night? And I would say it's that. And we want that experience from when you leave downtown or wherever you're staying and getting there to be the best it can be. But, when you look at one bridge on and off that island, we've been working at this for 2.5 years with the city, the boroughs, every borough in between downtown Montreal to the golf course. And, I think the team has a great plan. We're trying to get as much parking off island, off No Bazaar, so we can manage the traffic on that bridge and get people on and off. I think there is whether it's going to a football game, whether it's going to a basketball game, hockey game, whatever. I mean, there's going to be part of that journey that you wish could be different. But we've been working on it for, like I said, 2.5 years, and I think we've got some pretty good solutions. And once you get there, it's going to be worth it. There's going to be a cold refreshment for you and some great food and some unbelievable golf. So I think the rest will take care of itself.
I believe
well
that.
Worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think back to the excuse me, the LPGA event they hosted at St. Charles, and we heard that they were parking cars on what was it, the Woods 9.
The Woods 9, yeah, the West 9. No respect for the Woods 9.
So I did notice there are 2 other courses on the Il Bazaar, How Bazaar, and maybe they'll let you park cars on their courses.
We have talked with St. Raphael. We've got a few spots there, and Elmridge, I think hosted I'm going to say like the 1954 or 56 Canadian Open.
Wow. I missed that one.
Yeah, you and me both. But there's definitely a lot of great golf in the area. And yeah, we are working with everybody in the area to make sure that there's some good parking options.
Cool. Very cool. I got to ask about logistics, JR, I'm a big logistics guy.
I know you are a big logistics guy, but when it comes to 18 over par stickers, you're on it. We got those babies everywhere. Now we just got to get the hats rolling. So
I was just going to say, how do we get your hat from Winnipeg to Montreal?
Well, I got one I can send you.
But, we're the kayak sponsor. We'll send it via kayak.
You gotta hook us. You gotta hook us up with a manufacturer to do it on a big scale. But,
we'll figure it all out.
We'll get it done. Did you have any more, Mike, or did you want to jump into the back nine here?
We can jump into the back nine. I'm sure Ryan wants to get to that concert. Catch into the concert.
I want I think, is he the one who has the towel and he's always sweating and he just wipes his brow? I don't know what he has. Or maybe an ascot. Pavarotti. That's who it was. Yeah. I'm thinking of. Oh man. Ooh, I gotta know my.
You gotta get the 3 tenors, figured out. But well, it's all good, man.
I'll cut it out. We'll cut it out. Anyways, let's get into the back nine lightning round, and it is for Bryce Matlashewski, who is an investment advisor with Endeavour Wealth Management, part of IA Private Wealth, and a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. You can contact Bryce at 204-515-3446, and you can also check him out in our link tree. So right after you buy your President's Cup tickets, go check out Bryce. He'll tell you how you can afford it and maybe even how you can write it off.
Yeah. Well, he's Bryce. I haven't mentioned this yet. He's going to Scotland. Did you hear this? Yeah.
No. I was texting with him last night. He mentioned nothing about this.
Well, you guys were talking business.
Yeah, we were.
He's going at the end of May, and he would like to play St. Andrews. So he's gonna do the ballot, and then he's gonna do if his ballot doesn't get picked, they got their new system now, and you go there, and unfortunately he can't wait in line like I did that time, but he's gonna try and play St. Andrews. He's staying
subtle flex there.
Oh, it happens every episode. Yeah. He was just waiting.
That time I played St. Andrews, I had to wait a little bit, but
soon we'll be flexing about playing the Royal Montreal. So there you go.
Soon. So yeah, good for him. I think he's playing maybe a couple other courses, one other course out there. So hopefully he can get on, and then we'll get him on the pod. But that's enough about Bryce. I mean, we got Ryan Hart here, so let's pepper him with some more questions. We call it the back nine lightning round.
Nice.
Nine quick questions that usually lasts about an hour.
Yeah. Well, I have a quick one here. I didn't even think of it until now, but any relation to the Hart Foundation?
Bret Hart
with wrestlers.
Owen Hart. No, it's I've heard everything from when I was in school to are you related to Corey Hart to Bret Hart. Yeah, no, I'm related to the East Kildonan Hearts,
Hey,
so
EK.
we're good there.
Shout out to EK.
Absolutely.
I've been there. You got a nickname?
Oh man, you probably have to ask Spearsy that one. RH, um, RH, probably the most. It's boring. It's the most consistent one,
It
but
seems like a very
Yeah.
Spearsy's got a couple that we won't bring up on air, but yeah, I would go to him for that.
Okay. Well, I was gonna
Okay, will do.
say, do you get Heartsy? I don't know.
Yeah, Hartsey, topper at Pine Ridge for sure. Hartsey, yeah,
Yeah.
those would
We'll
be
leave it
there.
at that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
Good.
there's definitely one more, but
We'll get that off air. Have you ever got a hole in one?
no, I have witnessed four, three of which could have been the worst golf shots I've ever seen in my life, and just happened to go in. But you can't say anything bad about it because they have one and I don't. So no.
Well, on that note, got to give a shout out to our boy Andre Frenchie Martel, who got his 14th hole in
Whoa.
one a month ago when he was down in California. 14
Wow.
holes in one.
How about Kenny
Or hole
Lee?
in
Didn't he
ones.
have what, two or three
Two
in
in
one
one
round?
round.
Two
Yeah,
in
at
one
Glendale.
round,
Yeah. And Glendale is also the home of Frenchie. So maybe
Right.
there's
Oh,
something
geez.
with that golf course. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Hole in one course.
Must be.
What golf ball do you play on those 10 rounds you get out to annually?
I would say that the Pro V1X, like the numbers 1 and 2, just because don't want to
Yeah.
go
Ooh.
too much higher than that. But yeah, Pro V1X.
Good to know. And we didn't ask this. Usually we ask this in our regular segment there. What do you got? What are you playing in the bag?
Mm.
Oh man, I just literally traded them out last year. It's funny. Do you guys remember Bruce Bellino when he used to be the Titleist rep in Winnipeg before Robbie? So
Not me, but
Brucey was there for a number of time. He played Canadian Tour for a while and so on. So I think I had up until last year, I think I had the first generation AP2s. So I traded everything out last year, top to bottom, Titleist. But I kept the putter that he gave me. So my Scotty is I have a 13-year-old Scotty.
Oh, nice.
But everything else is was brand new last year.
good. Hopefully,
When you only play 10 rounds a year,
yeah.
I mean, those AP2s from Gen 1 were still pretty new looking.
Oh, yeah, we get it.
Do you got a favorite course to play in Manitoba?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many hidden gems. I'm going to go off the grid a little bit. I would say Colin Smith, who works for Sleeman, longtime friend of mine. He and I went up to the what was it? Manitoba Hotel Association conference. Was at Clear Lake one year, and we sort of drove our way up and stumbled upon the Nipawa golf course. Never in my life would I have thought there was that kind of undulation on a golf course, elevated tees, so on and so forth. That one was super fun. Pinawa, love getting out there. Trying to think outside the city. Inside the city, I mean, I've been a member at a couple places, so that would be pretty straightforward. But I would say if I would say favorite course in Manitoba to just play, and probably because I spent so much time around there, but I don't think I'd ever get tired of playing it. It'd be probably Pine Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just enjoy great membership, good people around there, and just the layout. It's a fun track to play. There's so many. I mean, it's hard. I mean, when you sit there and you look at it, you've got two Donald Rosses across the street from each other in Pine Ridge, Elmhurst. Then you've got Nyako, which is amazing, right in the heart of the city. Then you've got St. Charles with a Mackenzie Ross combo.
And
Can't
Woods.
wait. And Woods, yeah, just not the Woods everybody's thinking about. But can't wait to see what that reno looks like. Was a member there before I left, and played a ton at Breezy. We used to live in Headingley. Corey and the team out there was amazing. And another great tie to Winnipeg too is, and Montreal is, Garrett Malcolm out at Royal Montreal. Been there for a number of years. Love the Winnipeg connection there. But yeah, I mean, it's I think Winnipeg is an underrated golf market. It genuinely is. There's so much good golf. I think I've actually only played Southwood probably maybe 5 times. But thoroughly enjoyed it. Gutty did say that's got to change, when I come back after President's Cup. But yeah, we're blessed with good golf in Winnipeg.
We are. I was going to say, it's just, case in point is this podcast and the support that we've received locally, and the folks who have been on it and getting to see the mid-ams and the AMs and all that stuff that goes on here. It is a great community of golfers here, and a talented one as well.
Big time. I mean, there's not too many communities that have a guy like Robbie Mack that took down Tiger in college and, was referenced on when Tiger was on the Barbara Walters special, and asked about, the next up and coming golfer and referenced in that. So, I mean, I think that's just one of a million stories coming out of Winnipeg.
Pretty amazing. I emailed ABC a few times. Maybe they'll answer your emails. There was somebody else on that same episode, and it was Prince
Prince Ali Ababwa?
No, whatever. Prince Charles or whatever. But I'm thinking the episode was scrubbed because of him. They took it off. So I'm sure you can find it. But
I remember watching it. It was amazing.
Yeah. You got a bucket list course in Manitoba, somewhere you haven't got to yet?
Yes. Is it Oak Island?
Oak Island, yeah, that comes up a lot.
Yeah, just outside of Brandon.
Yep.
For the other side of Brandon, I should say, yeah, I've heard so many good things about that track, and just haven't had the opportunity to get out there. But yeah, that's one I'd love to see.
Yeah, beautiful. JR, you'll have to get out there this year.
Yeah, I got to email him again. I was hoping to last summer, but I didn't get the chance. But I know you have. You've made your way out that way.
Yeah, we're going out. We're passing it this year for the Harambe Invitational, but we're playing out in Kenosee, Saskatchewan. They got some nice courses out that way, so we're heading west. RH, in your opinion, what would be the most memorable course you've ever played? I'm sure there's a few top tier courses, but feel free to name drop them. I'm a big name drop guy.
Or maybe it's St. Boniface.
True.
With Gramps, who knows?
Very, very memorable.
I think I could sort of carve it into, but carve it into 3 buckets. I would say memorable rounds would be, I think, when you become a father, the sort of Father's Day tradition of playing with your kids. I trite to say, but I truly, for the little golf I get to play, that is always a highlight of my year, no matter where we are. So whether we're in Florida, whatever the course was down there, or, played a lot at Breezy, and I've done it at St. B, I've done it at St. Charles, Pine Ridge. That round is probably the highlight of my year. Number 2, I would go with, I think when you get employed by the PGA Tour at a certain level, you become a member at TPC Sawgrass, and walking on that course just never gets old. It is, obviously I've been to Augusta, but I've never had an opportunity to play it, but I just love everything about the intentional design an experience of TPC Sawgrass. It is amazing. And then I would probably end with one I never thought I would play. I had the good fortune to be asked to, when we were bringing golf back after COVID, to help oversee the what's it called, TaylorMade Driving for Change, I think it was, at Seminole. And it was Rory and DJ and Matt Wolf and Ricky Fowler, 4 guys walking, looping their own bags, playing golf. So we had to put that whole thing on with 50 people, including the golfers, and then had the opportunity to play Seminole after. And that one to me was, one of those ones as a Winnipegger, you sit there and go, never would have thought I would have walked on that. And the coolest thing about that one, honestly, is there's zero manicuring on that golf course. It is just raw, in front of you, tough. And the locker room is, I mean, just the who's who of history on the people who have won the member cast and whatever. But yeah, I would say that those kind of the 3 buckets of how I'd break that up. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Good answer.
No,
Great
we
answer.
love it.
Well, and you touched on Augusta, but we always say, with the exception of Augusta National, what would be your number 1 bucket list course anywhere in the world? However, Augusta could be obtainable for you.
No, I would. It has been not Augusta, but this course has been on my list forever. And I turned 50 in a couple of years, and hope to do it. Is you've been there, so you've one up me, but the old course at St. Andrews.
Yeah.
Pretty
special place.
Got to do it. I've been there, but I've not played it.
Hopefully, they'll get you a tee time. Hopefully, the RNA will give you a tee time.
I'll go up to the pub across the road, and I hear there's one hidden tee time every day.
Really?
We'll try to figure it out.
The Dunvegan.
Yeah, the Dunvegan. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Here's one. You got a career low round.
A career low round. Yeah, and it makes me giggle a little bit. It was 69 at Windsor Park.
Nice.
Hey.
Which I think is a par 67. So
that's pretty good.
But that was many moons ago, and that would be the lowest there. And then the one that I get ribbed about the most, and Gutty can attest to this one. Gutty and Topper and the guys invited me to a morning game, early, sort of 7-something a.m. at the Ridge one year, and everybody kind of throws balls, divides up the groups and whatever. And I always say to Gutty, because I don't play enough golf to really have a handicap, and Gutty's like, "Oh, you're an honest 10. Like you're a solid 10." I said, "All right." So I'm a 10. So I went out and I shot 73, and and I literally took all the money that I won and I put it in the middle of the table and just let the guys buy pitchers after that, so I didn't get lynched. But it was a complete fluke. But it was a fun day just the same. Wow.
Very cool. Very cool. Number 8 here, I kind of my wild card, and I mentioned I was a name drop guy. I read that you got to meet Jack Nicklaus. I guess that's through. I'm sure you've met a lot of golfers. Is that through the Players Championship?
Yeah, that was it was pretty cool. Was that the when he had to go to the restroom and he didn't know he had a locker in the championship or in the champions locker room? That story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. I think it was my second year, and we were helping him kick off the Play Yellow campaign, and we were going to make a contribution, and yada yada yada. And so greeted him out front of the clubhouse. He and Miss Nicholas got out of the car, and she went to another room, was meeting people for lunch, and Mr. Nicholas just said, I really got to go to the restroom. I got to put this bag somewhere. I'm like, well, we can throw it in your locker. And then, it was my locker. I'm like, well, sorry, you've won this tournament 3 times. Like, he goes, but I never won it here. He goes, could never figure this course out. And I'm like, yeah, but you were a 3-time players champion. Really? I have a locker here, he says. He goes, let's go check that out. I'm like, all right. So myself and photographer, we got to go back in there, and he goes, do I have anything in there? And then he kind of opened it up. We checked his bag in, and like, wow, look at that. What do you know? And then he, went to the restroom, and then we went out and did our thing. But yeah, I thought it was pretty wild that a 3-time champion of the Players Championship didn't realize he had a locker at TPC Sawgrass. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's cool. Would you say that TPC?
The first time I met him, though, and
Yeah.
I did bring it up. First time I ever met him was with Gutty. 20.
Oh.
So I'll dovetail that just for your new GM. 2013 President's Cup. We happened to have clubhouse access, and we were in line waiting for a refreshment, and kind of literally looked over our shoulder, and Mr. Nicholas was standing legitimately right behind us. And so you kind of sort of freak out and sort of, calmly, act like you've been there before, and say, Mr. Nicholas, would you like to go in front of us and whatever? And he ended up asking where we were from, and we said Winnipeg and Canada, and had you ever been here before? And we said no, and he says, oh, have you seen the clubhouse? And I'm like, no. So we end up getting this sort of 10-minute tour from Jack Nicklaus at Muirfield. And the thing that absolutely fascinated me the most was, and I'm sure Gutty can attest to this, is when we're walking around, he's like, would see somebody, call them by name, and say, I noticed the shrimp cocktail was a little low over there on the buffet, whatever. Last time I was in the restroom, I noticed the towels were a little low. Like every little detail. And he talked to everybody like he's like they were his family, like he'd known them forever. And then he says, sorry guys, I have to leave and go to an event. He goes, have you seen the view off 18? Off the balcony overlooking 18? And we're like, no, sorry, I don't think our credentials get us in there. And he goes, oh, I might know a guy. And so he walks over and he says to the security guy, he says, I'd like you to meet my new friends from Canada. He says, can you believe they've never seen the view off this balcony overlooking 18? There's no Mr. Nicholas. I can't believe they haven't. He goes, well, if you could help them see that view, that'd be great. And he thanked us, wished us well, walked away, and we walked out, and Tiger and Matt Kuchar were coming up 18. Oh, wow. And Gutty and I kind of looked at each other and went, all right.
This is all right.
Amazing. Yeah. Very cool. Well, I was going to ask you about the clubhouse at TPC Sawgrass, because it looks like an absolute palace, but I don't know where it is in the rankings of best clubhouses. But would you say it's up there?
I mean, I'm definitely going to be biased on that one.
Yeah.
I think when Dean Beeman built it, it was built with such intention of, when you pull up and you look at the front of it, the far left side, a player can literally pull up, go into the far left doors, and never be seen by anybody until they come out onto the short game area. I mean, he wanted it to be the player's home. And it was so well done that way. There's the champions locker room, the main locker room, and there's pub 17, which is the players' grill. Only players are allowed in there. No agents, no wives, nobody, just players. And I think, would love to be a fly on the wall in that room. The fact that they have the artifacts of, every player that's ever won there donates a club, and they're all lined up on the wall, so you get to see that. The fun fact that Pete Dye did not create the 17th hole, his wife Alice did, and it was drawn on a breakfast, the old sort of greasy spoon diner like placemats.
Oh yeah.
She had flipped one over, and Pete had originally drawn it as a peninsula, and she kind of cut that out and said, why don't you just make it an island? And the original drawing is there in the clubhouse.
Whoa. Wow, that's cool.
And yeah, there's just so many. It was done so intentional. It was
a couple of grease
cool
stains and some ketchup on there.
Nice segue.
Speaking of ketchup, our flagship question of the back nine lightning round: what is your favorite condiment?
My favorite condiment.
Yeah, at the turn, what are you slapping on? Whether it
On
be
a
a hot
dog, it
dog, a
would be
veggie dog, a
mustard.
hamburger, mustard. Is it a Dijon?
No, it's just good old Heinz yellow mustard and some onions. That's about it on a dog.
Some
Yeah.
onions.
Wash it down with a little refreshment, and you're good to go.
Good answer. I'm sure there'll be some great food at the President's Cup. You mentioned it earlier. Are you introducing some poutine? I'm sure will be there. And
Yeah,
what else?
there'll be some poutine, there'll be some Montreal smoked meat. There's also some, I think there's, if you look at with the history of Montreal, there's a great diversity in styles of food, whether it be Asian food or Indian food and so on. Just if you look at the history of immigration here. So I think you're gonna get a little bit of everything, and everybody's tried to, whether it be our concession team or our F&B team, or we've literally worked with some of the chefs in town to create menus depending on the hospitality that you're in to showcase the culture of the market. So we're looking forward to it.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, I'm sold. I know, like I mentioned before, I was texting Mike about it, but it sounds like it's going to be a great experience. And that was the back nine lightning round for Bryce Matlashewski, who is an investment advisor with Endeavour Wealth Management, part of IA Private Wealth, and a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. Contact Bryce 204-515-3446. RH, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us from Montreal. We look forward to maybe seeing you there, maybe seeing you back in Winnipeg, wherever it might be. But again, really appreciate you taking the time, filling us in, and we will have that link to tickets. General admission tickets are available now. You can also get those presidential suite tickets. I don't know if those are
no,
if those are online or not. I think
there's
a different one. Yeah.
Well, they're sold out from what I read, and
we have one.
You got one.
We're just waiting for you guys to make your decision.
I was gonna say,
we have one left.
We come as a package.
Well, I think it was $375,000.
You're not wrong.
So
we'll talk to Bryce offline. We'll see what we can figure out, and 18 over par.
Talk to Guthrie.
Presented by Bryce on the 15th hole, overlooking 15-16. Live pod from in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be great.
Endeavour Wealth. Very good. Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. They're part of IA Private Wealth. I know IA's got a lot of money. They'll figure
I appreciate the support, you guys. It's been awesome. And sorry it's taken so long for us to connect, but genuinely appreciate it and look forward to seeing you guys in Montreal.
All right. Well, thanks again. We look forward to it as well. President's Cup coming up end of September. Check our link tree in our bios, Facebook or Instagram. Click on that link and ticket link will be right there. Anyways, have yourself a wonderful night. Enjoy the tenor, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Bye. All right.